Slava Isusu Christu, glory be to Jesus Christ. Father John and I, besides our ministry work regarding Blessed Vasey in Ukraine, have also been involved with Sister Julia and her orphan children and youth. One of these orphans is a young man by the name of Andriyko. We have been supporting him financially since 2009. Andriyko comes from a background of absolute poverty and destitution. He is a man of great faith and is a great devotion to the Mother of God and Blessed Vasey. I would like to share a story about Andriyko and his healing and his faith. Andriyko is now married with 2 children. He works very hard to make ends meet. He completed his schooling in Stri with a mechanical diploma, however, was not able to get a job. From there, he went to Kyiv and worked on construction. He was given free room and board, but no pay. He returned home. He returned home to a rundown house that he inherited from his grandfather. He began to renovate the home. When money ran out, he proceeded to go to Poland to work on the fields, gathering apples and potatoes. He left Poland and returned home. He again sought to find work in Lviv. There again he found some difficulty. On May 16th, 2019, we received a phone call from Andriyko. He had shared with us the months of coughing, and it was getting extremely hard even to breathe sometimes. He needed to see a doctor, but he needed some financial assistance. In Ukraine, medication and any medical procedures, even visiting the doctor, was not covered by the state. He traveled to Stri, a nearby city, where he needed numerous tests, including an MRI. All these procedures would cost approximately $200 American. He asked if we could financially assist him, and we did. A month later, June 20th, we received another phone call from Andriyko. He had been to 2 hospitals, the one in Stri and a well-known hospital in Lviv. Here again, he had further tests. Here the MRI showed that he had 2 tumors on his bronchial tubes near the pancreas. Since he couldn't pay for the treatment, the doctor told him, go home and live normally. Try and reduce your stress, drink warm liquids, and boil your food. And then, in a few months, come and see me and we'll see if the tumor has grown or not. Andriyko had some blessed oil of Blessed Vasey, and he began to anoint himself and pray to the Mother of God and ask for Blessed Vasey's intercession. When we had heard all of this, we were greatly distressed. This young man would have to wait several months before he could get any treatment. With cancer, this could be deadly. We contacted Father Andriy Lohin, someone who we had known for a while, and who was the director of the Shiptitsky Catholic Hospital. He immediately said he would help. He contacted the chief administrator at a tuberculosis hospital. We left for Ukraine on June 30th, and upon arriving in Ukraine, we contacted Father Andriy. Arrangements had been made that Andriyko was to come on Wednesday, July 3rd, to meet the chief medical examiner and examine the MRI results and the diagnosis from the previous doctors that Andriyko had seen. The doctor confirmed that this was serious, and there wasn't a bed available that day, but he wanted Andriyko to come back as soon as possible. Andriyko arrived at the tuberculosis hospital on Monday, July 8th. Upon entering the hospital, Father John anointed Andriyko with the holy oil of Blessed Vasey gave him a third-class relic, and prayed for his healing. Andriyko had this third-class with him all the time and continued to pray and ask for Blessed Visay's intercession. We thought that the analysis of the blood work and the biopsy would take a few days, but it didn't. The blood work revealed that his spleen was enlarged and was not functioning properly. This meant days of antibiotics and various intravenous medication. This condition had to be healed before we were to proceed. With the generosity of the people from Canada, we had the funds to pay for the medications and the procedures necessary. Since we had a vehicle, we were able to visit Andriyko in the hospital daily. We were becoming anxious, however, because as the days were going by, nothing was being done about the 2 tumors, which were clearly visible in the MRI images. This was already the last week of our trip. We were to return to Canada soon. It seemed that nothing would be done before we left. Things were so unpredictable. On Tuesday, July 16th, the doctor began to prepare Andriyko mentally for surgery to remove the tumors. He told Andriyko that the spleen had returned to normal and that they would have to deal with the tumors. The doctor also wanted more intense testing and to get greater details regarding these tumors. The surgery, the tests, the cost of these procedures was growing. On Wednesday evening, we received a phone call from Andriyko that on Thursday morning he was scheduled for another MRI and we would have to go to another hospital for these tests. The next morning, hoping and praying that they would have concrete results, because the next day we were leaving back to Canada. The question was, how much would this cost? Would we have enough funds for these medical expenses? Would anyone here in Laville look after Andriyko? Would he have to fend for himself? Fortunately, in Ukraine, any tests that are done are given to the patient. They have the medical records. I accompanied Andriyko to the hospital. There I sat and waited and prayed while Andriyko received 2 more MRI tests, one for the chest and lungs, and the other one for his brain and sinus cavities. Our rental vehicle was due back at 3 o'clock that afternoon. Time was running out. When the tests were completed, we left the hospital around 1:30 and returned to the Redemptorist Monastery for a quick lunch. This would all have to be done before 3 o'clock. Andriyko received another phone call. It was the doctor who had performed the MRI. The results were in. He wanted Andriyko to come back with the original MRI results, as he was having some difficulty recognizing the tumors. We had to drive Andriyko back to the hospital, which was at a distance. Would we have time to return the vehicle at 3 o'clock? What do we do? The phone rang again. Father John picked up the phone, and here it was, the rental company, asking us not to bring the vehicle back at 3, but around 4 o'clock, because there wouldn't be anybody at the office. Now we had time. We drove Andriyko back to the hospital. The doctor took the original files while we waited in anticipation. All this time we waited, prayed, and asking Blessed Visay to intercede for a miracle that the results would be negative. A short time later, the doctor stepped out with a big smile on his face and told us that the tumors were gone. They no longer existed. We were overwhelmed And by God's grace and the intercession of Blessed Vasey, we went down to the hospital corridor to receive the results of the brain scan. They too were totally clear. We were speechless. We were so grateful for the manifestation of God's power and the intercession of Blessed Vasey that brought great healing to this young man, Andriyko. On Friday, we prepared to return back to Canada. Andriyko was discharged from the hospital that same day and traveled home. Today, Andriyko is free from any serious illnesses. He does occasionally go to Stri for some blood work. He does have, however, some medication to help him with his asthmatic symptoms. This indeed is a miracle for Andriyko, and he thanks Blessed Vasey for intercession. He continues to pray daily for his health and for the healing that he received.